What the ones they refer to.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Milton Conservation Commission meeting on February 11th, 2020. We have a couple of rules of procedure. One is that we invite everyone to speak, ask questions, make comments, but please come forward, use the microphone, and identify yourself. Additionally, we have a tape recorder here that's magic. It records your voice, and it helps us with the open meeting laws, so that also is a reason why you should identify yourself, and then make whatever comments you wish to, and we do invite public interaction. Second matter of formality, we introduce ourselves.
Ingrid Beatty.
Judith Darrell Kemp.
John Kiernan.
Hans Van Lingen.
Arthur Doyle.
Gerard Burke.
Hi, I'm Wendy Geico.
Kathy Bowen.
And first on the agenda is 693 711 Randolph Avenue. The applicant has requested a continuance until the March meeting, right? Correct. Good, all right. But we do have in our package, and I think in fairness to the applicant, we should probably hold our comments and questions. But I would invite everybody to read this pretty carefully. It's a pretty thorough, and by the way, it's not a design peer review, which I've said at every single meeting since 2014. And I'll say it again, it's not a peer review. These are consultants that are hired by, paid for by the applicant, but hired by the Conservation Commission to advise us on issues of environmental concerns. So they report directly to us. But unless there's an objection or a comment from a member of the public, we will continue this matter until, Kathy, do you know the date in March?
17th.
March 17th, appropriate, okay.
I had a related question, John. At some point in time, will they be here too? So that if we have questions?
Oh, our Mark Lundstrom?
Because,
Absolutely,
yes.
yes.
Okay, good.
Kathy, did you talk to
I
Mark?
did today.
Okay, was he intending on coming or not?
Was not.
Okay. Our contract with them, I think, includes one appearance. So it would probably be pointless to have him here tonight without
Great.
the applicant being here as well. So we just wanted to make sure that nobody wasted their time.
And it was request of the applicant too.
Oh, absolutely. Written request by the applicant, it's not on us, which is very important to note. So that's off until March 17th. Number two is notice of intent, 52 Ford Ranch Road. Good evening.
Good evening, I'm going to make one quick attempt to wrap this up.
Did you look this up? Thoroughly. Did I even have a chance? Does it kick me out of the book? Does it show the support? Or is it mixed?
No.
There's a lot that's been done.
It's when I get into
Oh, no, I got it.
This is for me, but I figured out how much I got.
Welcome all.
We got it.
We got it. Okay.
All right, this is a notice of intent, and for the benefit of the public, the Conservation Commission actually did a site walk, what, 2 weeks ago? We were on site, and we've seen the conditions. It's very, very close to the wetlands, but the bottom line is, this is an upgrade, which we appreciate. It's an existing septic system, and it's going to get better, not worse.
For the record, my name is Jeff Kane. I'm with LAL Engineering. I'm representing Judy here tonight for this, as you mentioned, notice of intent for the upgrade of the septic system. As we talked about at that site meeting, I'll just do a quick recap. The house has what I would call a tired septic system right now. It's not failing, but it does take some work to keep it going. Judy would like to address that now as far as getting this system replaced. We looked into that. As you mentioned, John, we're very close to the wetlands here. We're using upgrade rules per Mass DEP. They allow some relaxation of the Title V regulations when you're upgrading to a better than what's there now system. They allow an offset to groundwater separation reduction. Typically, it's 4 feet. With the type of system we're using with the treatment, they allow 2 feet. And they also allow a setback reduction to the wetlands. They do not allow both at the same time. So in this case here, we are taking the reduction to the setback to the wetlands. As you folks remember, that was awfully close to the site out there. But we do maintain the 4-foot separation to groundwater. So the system will increase or better the quality of effluent now going out in that proximity to the wetland. This system is an enhanced treatment type system. It does provide more treatment within the system itself, so the effluent that leaves the bottom is actually a cleaner effluent than would be just that perk through the sand, which a typical Title V system would do. We did add some plantings onto the plan at the request of the commission members, and we did go through that with Judy. I think she approved
Yeah.
those members.
That's a great recommendation.
And that said, what we have here, what I'm showing you here, does have the plantings on there. I'm not sure if in your package you have those or not. I did submit it, but it was later, so I don't know if that ever translated to you folks getting it.
You know, Kathy, if it's in,
It's actually in front of you, like, with your agenda.
it's on this?
Yeah, we knew it wasn't gonna get here in time. It was later than Kathy put it out. I just happened to send it electronic, just in case you guys could get it. But as we talked, we were gonna present it tonight for the plantings. We did use the red twig dogwood, winterberry, and high bush
Good
blueberry.
idea.
We tried to keep them along the edge of the wetlands like we talked about, but it really is the stone wall that's out there. Spread them out as much as possible. We also calling for a little removal of the invasive Rosa multifloras, am I saying that right? Are you, okay. That we saw in that corner there, that will take the place of the plantings. We'll get rid of some of that invasive and put in those plantings.
What about, and I don't know, this question might go to Todd, can you get the equipment in and out of there and save that tree, or is that tree gone
On the driveway?
on the driveway?
It's gotta
I
go.
am heartbroken about that, but that's.
What kind of a tree is it?
That was I think it was
Lead
a.
maple.
Maple.
Which was an invasive
Japanese
anyway,
maple.
right?
Well, it's not invasive, just isn't native.
So it is an ornamental plant that
Pretty
was.
plant.
It's a beautiful
And
tree.
the
I
homeowner
mean.
did put them in, so it is a
And I
landscaping
have,
plant.
I just put a new one in because one had been damaged, and I've already put in with getting, try to get as large as I can. I don't come quite that large, but I have a plan, once we put the system in, to replace that, because I'll be missing that magnificent tree, but gotta do what we gotta do.
And what about, our performance standard is 3-to-1, or for shrubbery, it's 6-to-1. Is that, I don't see it in front of me, that number and the count and the tree. Are you folks comfortable with that? You know, I look to you because you know a whole
You know,
lot more.
I thought I saw a
trees
list
than I
of the
do.
plantings. Kathy, did you send it in an email or
It's
something?
on this drawing here.
Yeah.
On the one right behind you.
have it on our package. There was another one that had a planting.
Here's the planting schedule
What's this
here.
one? Is this it with dots?
We've got 15, we've got the red twig dogwood, the high bush blueberry.
I think it'll be a pretty combination, and I really
It's up on the
appreciate
screen.
it.
We show them down here, just spread out along the.
That was agreed to on site, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? Members of the, actually, I should ask the butters first, and then members of the public, citizens of
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
Commonwealth.
I have a question, if I may. You said there's going to be treatment on site?
It's, when I say treatment, the actual units, and I probably have a picture of them on this plan here, since this is a septic plan. If you look at it's called an Elgin system. If you look at the screen there, you'll see this. What you have here is right here is your typical perforated pipe that you'd see with the septic system. Underneath it is a small square module that fits underneath these pipes. They're 4 feet by 2 feet wide, and it's 7 feet tall, and it just has plastic chambers in it, almost baffles. And it gives the effluent more of a trickling area to form a bacterial layer that treats the effluent. It's almost like a drinking water type treatment, where they trickle the water through it, the bacteria treats it as it goes through. So what comes out the bottom here is what they consider to be a highly treated effluent. Now, in a typical Title V system, all the treatment happens in the 4 feet of sand below the system. In this type of system, the treatment happens in the 7 inches just below the pipe. So when I say it's a higher treatment system, it's a passive treatment system. It's not an electronic, it's not a pump or anything like that. It's just part of the actual design of this type of module. They call it a geotechnical sand filter.
Now, what about the likelihood of E. coli going into the wetlands? Is this address that issue?
This addresses it in the fact that it's much better situation that's there today. Any septic system per DEP that meets Title V standards is in compliance with the Wetland Protection Act. This system is in compliance with the Wetland Protection Act. We also bring it a higher level above the wetland, as we mentioned. Right now, the system is probably, if we were to do a test on it, I'd estimate somewhere at a foot, maybe a little less, above the seasonal high groundwater. The system we're putting in here is 4 feet above seasonal high groundwater, so we're making maybe a bad situation better, and that's kind of the upgrade part of the system.
What did you call the system again? You said it was
It's an
superior.
Elgin,
Elgin,
right there, it's an
Sorry,
Elgin
I'm listening.
geotextile sand filter, GSF they call it. It's listed on the DEP's alternative technologies as a general use type of technology.
Any questions from the public? Any questions from commissioners? Knowing that we've been there in previous session, is there a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
And the order of conditions, so that everybody knows, that we have the usual boilerplate standard conclusions that you can't store your equipment or refuel your equipment overnight. I know they have to get in there to work, but you have to get them out of there outside of our jurisdiction. Yes, Todd?
Can I intervene on that just a little bit for a second?
Did you identify yourself?
Todd Hamilton. Taking an excavator out of there every night means you gotta bring a low bed 18-wheeler in there. Can we do the baffle around it like we did with the bridge at the same, it's kind of that same situation. To bring a 50, 60,000 pound machine out of there, it's on metal tracks every night, across her driveway out to the street, you're just ripping everything apart.
How long does it take to dig the,
It's gonna take it's a tough job because you've got the house and you've got that brook right there. And there's not a lot of room, so every scoop that comes out of the truck, out of the ground, is gonna have to go in a trailer. I can't just stockpile the dirt over in the corner here because there's nowhere to
there's nowhere to
put it.
put it? I get it.
This is a tough situation. That's why I came tonight, because I knew this site, it's gonna be a challenge.
So what do you propose for the spill control?
Well, when we did the bridge, DEP came out for the water quality, and they allowed us to put the sock around the machine every night. And I know they had contacted this board about it, because that was another big problem. To take the machine out every night, I have to get a low bid permit, and you can only move it between 9 AM and 3 PM. I can't move it any other hour of the day.
Why not? I'm just curious.
Because DOT and the highway, you can't be on any of the roads, because the machine's over width
Got it.
and overweight. So they give you restrictions on hours you can move it.
And you need a machine that big to dig the trench for this?
Oh, God, yeah. There's a lot of dirt coming out of there.
It does make it go faster, the larger machine, it
this-
just kind of gets it done with as
The other
well.
thing, John, is the machine, it sits still.
Is that you? Oh, I apologize.
It spins like this, John, and I can load it right into the truck.
Now, does it sit on the truck?
No, it sits on the ground, but when you back the dump.
No, I'm sorry, I meant when you take the soil out of the backyard, you put it on the truck.
In the back of a dump truck.
Right, are you just storing it?
No, it's coming out of there.
It's going out of there, and you're gonna put clean fill back in?
Whatever I gotta do, yeah, that's what I'm saying, and I know when you dig this, it's gonna have the cave effect. Because it's filled, it's not all virgin.
Where's the excess material gonna go?
It's going out of there, it's gonna be hauled out.
To,
I don't know yet.
okay.
But I know the hole's gonna end up being bigger than the trenches on the plan, because you're gonna have somewhat of caving, so there's no way to stockpile all that dirt back there. So it's gonna, instead of doing it twice, if I stockpile here and stockpile there, you're still gonna have to load to take it out of there.
How many days do you think it'll take?
If we have good weather, I think you're a good week in there, because it's.
Week?
Well, you got the sand to go in, you gotta dig it all out, build the system, you
I
got
would
the pump,
agree.
you got the
If-
tank, 2 tanks.
And you do have to have the inspections by the town as well. So there's a dig out, refill, put the system in, have the town come inspect, go back, backfill it, have the town come inspect, and then final grade it. So it's a realistic time frame that you see with these.
And the
As-
engineers have to come out to as-built it, we can't cover it until they come out and pinpoint it off for the Board of Health as well.
And as far as Todd's mentioned with the construction sequencing part, I mean, I don't like as the engineer to get caught up in the minutia of that part. Todd brings up a good point, though, where the machine may stay on site was probably the most efficient way to do this. And like we talked about before, and like works with NIPD's permits, if you have a machine or a refueling area on site, it's surrounded by erosion control and that type of sock. So beyond the fact that one scoop's gonna go into a truck and one's gonna go into there, as far as the engineering part goes, the thing that would need to be addressed, he's right, is the machine would be on site, so how would
The
that?
bigger issue is,
Yes.
I think, erosion control, but also spill control.
Spill control.
Right, which that's what the NIPD's part of that is. Spill control is, allowing that not to migrate to the wetlands. And actually, when you get to the type of machine Todd's using, that migration is usually, it's based on the volume of in the tank that's on site, and the most that's there. So that sock area he's talking about would capture any volume that would come out of that machine. That's typically how it's sized for the NIPD's permit. So any area that's gonna circle that machine, that machine at that height, even on a basic sock at 8 inches, is gonna have that volume to capture it. So it would meet a spill control plan, even though it's not part of the, it's not required for this type of work.
The other thing we could do is we could walk the machine up close to the street where her driveway starts to meet the road, because that's a big distance difference between the backyard.
It sure is, right.
Yes, yeah.
And that way,
Wondering about that.
she doesn't have to pay a low bid every day to haul it in and haul it out, because what happens is the window of working time becomes this, because to unload that machine and load it and move it is, it's $1,000 a move.
Where you talking about putting?
When you, or her
The
drive, where the
driveway.
tree we were gonna cut, the tree we're gonna
Yeah.
cut, if we walked it way up there, that's a big distance, it's probably 70 or 80 feet to the brook.
So you're gonna store it on a paved surface?
No, right where the drive, if I go on the pavement, it's gonna crack it, at the metal tracks.
Okay.
It's gonna rip her driveway apart, you gotta plywood it in there. You put plywood down, then you walk on top of it,
Right, I understand.
yeah, or otherwise it destroys it.
And how many times are you gonna have to refuel? I mean, that's a real
machine-
risk.
Machine, you might refuel it once, maybe.
It's not just the fuel, it's also hydraulic
Oh, right,
oil.
I know.
It's two different.
But that, when we did the bridge, when DEP gave us the water quality, he came out, he made us put a sock around the machine, but his words were to us, I said, we have to take the machine out of here every night and bring it back, and he said, no. And I said, well, that's what my order of conditions said, when we were on site doing the site visit with him in Lenore. And he said, I want you to get this done as fast as you can, I don't want to waste time, he goes, I want you in and out of this area. So, I know he contacted, I don't know who it was involved with conservation, but he contacted somebody here before we started that. And he made us put the sock and staked it, and he spoke to somebody, I don't know which one of them, whether it was a member or if it was,
Steve Ivan?
Steve, maybe it was Steve he spoke to.
Yeah, yeah.
This was a couple of years ago.
I think it's a reasonable solution. If you take the end of the driveway here, it's still much farther away. And I think the idea of this trying to get finished as fast as possible, certainly with the transportation back and forth, it probably would take additional time. So I think I would say it's a reasonable solution to let them store it and put the sock around it.
So I just want to make sure that you have adequate spill response material available, including, diapers, so extra.
Diapers?
If there's- I'm sorry, the pads.
Oil pads, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the machine's much newer than that, you're not gonna have the leaks, it's like a newer car.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, but I think just to make sure we're covered and to be consistent with what the intent is here, just to have adequate spill containment materials available.
Yeah, we'll put the sock right around it at night, so if anything was to leak, it's gonna absorb into it.
Okay.
And go back, because I still didn't find the planting plan.
Oh,
The plantings,
Yeah.
it's all along here. I saw it before. I think it was sent by
It's on the plan
I'm just
behind
looking
you.
for
Don't
numbers.
pass this down.
555.
And I can see it there, but I can't see it here.
you won't, John, the plan that we submitted, we talked about before, we were on site, I had already submitted this plan.
Oh, this-
We said,
okay,
Yeah, so we said, we're gonna present it tonight at the meeting.
Oh, I just want John to know, it's coming down to you now.
Okay,
This is Kathy.
yep, thanks.
He doesn't realize those little dots are plants.
Am I mixing it up with another one?
There's another one that has a
Oh, maybe
planting
that's
plan.
one.
Yeah.
John,
That's-
I don't think you realize those little dots are the plants.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I just want to make sure we're within our.
Well, he knows that.
Yes.
They were just talking to Jeff and
You
him.
were talking about the tree.
15.
Yeah, the number, right.
So to replace it would have to be 3 or 9, 3, 6, 9, and they've got 15.
There's only one tree
Shrubs.
coming down.
Right.
Right, so it's either 3 trees
Yeah.
or 6 shrubs.
No, 3 shrubs for each tree, so 9.
Yeah, that's
And they
right.
have 15,
Okay,
so it's fine. In fact, the dogwood can get pretty big,
good, okay.
okay?
That's good. We're just discussing the number of plantings and to make sure it fits within our performance standard, and it does.
Good.
Thanks.
I think it's gonna look great.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Back to Kathy.
Wendy?
I would just like Todd to confirm that the sock that you're proposing to use for Judy's project is the same sock that DEP
Yeah, I said I would
recommended from
use the same
before.
one that I used on the bridge. I'll just buy the same one. Yeah, no problem with that at all.
It was before my time, so I
Yeah,
just
no,
wanted to
no,
make
no
sure.
problem. It's easy enough.
Email me the details of the song.
Yes.
We have on the plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Are there abutters, members of the public? Hearing none, is there a motion to issue order of conditions with the conditions that we have discussed? Arthur? Wendy, second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Good to go?
Thank you
very much,
very
Judy.
much. I
All right.
appreciate the effort of the recommendations. I thought they were cool.
Very good.
Good luck with everything.
Just a little humor. Todd, it won't be the same diaper, it'll be the same type of diaper, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Judith learned about a new variety of diaper.
All right, next on the agenda is, I know what it is, but I'm just trying to find my,
Brentwood Farm.
modification of order of condition 16 Wentworth Farm Road. Good evening, folks. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening again. For the record, my name is Jeff Kane with LAL Engineering Group. I'm representing Todd Hamilton on this request to modify an order of conditions for 16 Wentworth Farm Road. As you folks may recall, some people I'm sure weren't here at the time, but we did permit a house and septic system for 16 Wentworth Farm Road. At the time, the developer was actually looking to build a spec house there. We permitted a house that you see on this plan here. We had less than 1,000 square feet of roof area within the 100-foot buffer zone, the jurisdictional buffer zone. We did have a clearing area of approximately, let me just look this up really quick, I think it was around 5,000 square feet. Since that time, the lot has been sold to a new buyer who would,
Well, yeah, it's under agreement. Yeah, we haven't, it's subject to me getting this straightened out.
okay, the lot is under agreement with the new buyer who has decided to put obviously a different house on. He didn't like the spec house that was being proposed. So, that said, he has brought to us a house footprint that we have submitted. Let me just show you on the plan here. That now looks like on the screen here. We're now closer to 2,000 square feet of roof area in the 100-foot buffer zone. Now, the clearing area, the disturbance area in the buffer itself has not changed. That number stays the same at roughly 5,000 square feet, whatever we initially permitted for. What we have changed, obviously, is the roof area within the buffer zone. To mitigate for that, like we always have, we're taking the half-inch DEP stormwater water quality treatment volume and putting that into roof drains and into the cultex to infiltrate into the ground. One thing, as I think I mentioned when we were on site the other day, DEP does consider roof drainage different from asphalt and impervious areas of that nature. Roof drainage is considered clean drainage for residential areas. That can go directly into the groundwater, does not have to be treated, does not have to have that separation. If we were talking about a driveway, a roadway, something like that, that was impervious, that had cars on it, had the possibility of bringing pollutants, total suspended solids, heavy metals, things like that, that they consider a different animal. But roof drainage, residential roof drainage is considered clean, quote-unquote, water.
Okay, can I stop you and ask you a question? When you go from 900 feet to 1,900 square feet, and the 900 calculation within our jurisdiction, you've got the patio, In your 1900 on the revised plan, you don't include the deck.
Right.
What's the deck made of?
Deck is made of wood, again, those wood slats, even if it was a Trex, they don't consider that a impervious surface. A deck's considered a pervious surface.
What's underneath it? Is this
Round.
built on sonotubes or?
Yeah, it's right, it's gonna be raised off the ground, it's gonna be most likely grass underneath it, perhaps a stone, but it's gonna be a pervious surface underneath it.
Okay. I've got questions. The tree survey, as I was looking at your first plan, and then looking at the second plan, I don't know how you could possibly save that 24-foot tree. I don't think that's possible. Is it? I'm looking at your second plan with the 1,900 square feet.
Yeah, you can
Right off the
reduce it.
corner, it's awfully close. That's a big tree.
24.
The 24-inch, if you...
Right here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
I
there,
see
exact, that's it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. When we looked at this with the owner, we were bringing it to you to say what's gonna change. That would have to go, yes, in this scenario, it would have to go.
And the 90-inch tree that's just to the left of that. And then where the deck is a 12-inch tree there.
We looked at this, obviously, the impervious standpoint. Any trees, we understand your policy on the trees, and if additional trees have to be mitigated for, then that's part of this.
What kind of tree is it?
We don't specify. The surveyors don't know.
Because it might be worth just, taking corner out of that house design and reworking a little bit to save the tree if it's worthwhile.
Honestly, you'd have to, with that foundation there, to actually get into the drip line of the trees, I don't honestly think it's realistic, even if pull that corner back a little bit, it's gonna save that tree.
Yeah, not that size. That's
No,
gonna be a
it's
pretty
not gonna.
significant drip line.
Now, I would think if the commission has, and I will honestly, we don't, looking at the tree pile, we're looking at the impervious initially to get this in front of you and talk to you about this. Obviously, additional trees are gonna have to go. If that's a concern, we can absolutely do buffer plantings in the back area there to mitigate for some of those trees.
Yeah, I spoke with him, John, about it. I told him that we not do, and he's fine with whatever trees we have to do. He wasn't,
Yeah, but that's a pretty big tree.
It's a big tree.
That's a big tree. And we really need to know what kind it is. Not a Norway maple, but something, worthwhile.
Will that change the number of the mitigation?
No, it won't. It won't change the number, but it might change the,
I mean, again, we
species of
can
variety.
absolutely, if we're all, I think most of us were out there at the site walk, at this site, and when you walk back there, you can see that stone wall pretty evenly. It's fairly sparse back there. We've got some larger trees around, but you can see through them. There's not a lot of undergrowth. We can absolutely do some type of mitigation buffer plantings to kind of thicken up that buffer area. If you look in the back, and we've got the wetlands right up against that stone wall, I think the opportunity is there that we could put plantings back there.
okay.
Yeah, but a 24-inch tree, you'd have to put 50 plantings in. I mean, that's a huge tree.
Judith.
Really?
I mean,
So
we
I
have to
think-
stick to a standard.
Yes, I
We have
agree
to
with
stick
that.
to a reasonable
You're right,
standard.
I agree with that. But I think we should also find out what kind of tree it is.
That's fair.
Because, the design of the house, the outline, the footprint is not etched in stone. It can be relooked at creatively to see if you can save that tree.
we just spent 2 months with an architect, the house is done.
I mean, we're obviously happy to go out, find the species of tree. I honestly don't think it's gonna be possible to save that, Judith. I mean, I know the foundations, how those are dug, and I know the depth of them, and the trees, you can look up and say, okay, the drip line of the tree is about the crown of the tree. I don't think it's realistic. Even if you go in there and say, okay, we save it and you dig it out, it's gonna die in a year or two anyway. I mean, and in that case, it's gonna be a hazard to the house. It's gonna be right on top of the house. I think at this point, we look at the mitigation part.
It's also on the southwest side of the house, which is ideal in terms of shading.
Can you talk a little bit more about the type of tree?
Yeah, we need to know more about
Significant.
what type
Can
it
you
is.
expand upon that?
Well, I mean, if it's what we talked about before, tulip tree, if it's a black oak, if it's it's another sugar maple, you know, as good as they are, we have a lot of them. But if it's a different kind of tree that's that big, we should really find out what it is.
Replace it with the same kind of tree, but it's
Can
not,
it be replaced with a number of
Yeah.
tulip trees?
Yeah,
Sure.
could be.
We definitely did
We
not
don't
see any
usually
tulip
take
trees
down
out
that
there.
What's that?
size
We
tree.
I'm
we
just
have
u-
never, yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
I'm
we've
just
never.
using this as
Yeah.
just as an
following
example.
the discussion.
I mean, the lot next to it, Lot 9, when we go to come in for that one, I would say 50% of that lot is dead. I mean, it's fallen over in there like crazy. I don't know if it's the ash-type trees or what it is, but no one's touched that lot, because you'll be coming out to walk it, but from Lot 10 to Lot 9, it's all, half of it's all rotted and dead. When they're falling, there's holes in them this big that the bugs are eating.
Yeah, but an ash doesn't get this big. An ash might get that big. It's not gonna get to be this size.
Well, one of the things
Whether it's
that,
oak or what it is, I mean, it's dying, you're gonna see it. Another one went down with the wind the other day, the strong winds, snapped it right in half.
yeah, one of the things that, I think everybody was on the commission at the time, but if not, and for the public's benefit, we do try to stick to our performance standard of 3 to 1. The difference in this case is that when the road was cleared, you did plant a lot of trees.
Yeah.
And we changed our performance standard for the cluster zone development. So we lowered your tree replacement to 1.5. And the reason was because we got how many acres of open land?
I think it's 5 or 6 acres.
5 or 6 acres of open land. So
Right.
that's why we changed the, and we did the same thing with the Carberry Estate to Walcott Estate.
right.
Because it's a cluster zone development in which we receive the benefit of a lot of open space. But other than that change, we try to stick pretty closely to the 3 to 1 performance standard.
And that's one thing, we've addressed these in all these lots that we've gone with, and it's been a while, I think, since we've been in front of you folks, but every one of these lots, it's very difficult to try to save those trees. You know, it's not, I hate to use the word sacrificial, but during this whole permitting period, going back to the subdivision, as you mentioned, there was land given up. There was areas that have to be designated that these lots are going to be cleared to an extent. That's what the mitigation was for. So you've got smaller lots, you have septic systems, you have houses. Something's got to give, and that was always known from day one. That's why
See,
we
I
always.
I couldn't bring sewer, and there's no sewer in the neighborhood, so the septic takes up a big chunk,
Right, understood.
and it forces the house for setbacks, because you have to meet Title V. But I did ask him about treeing from the corner of the front of the lots where it meets the street down the property lines, and he plans on treeing the whole length on both sides as far as he can.
That's good.
I've already spoke to him about that. I spoke to a couple people about it already on it.
All right. I had a couple of other questions, and I already know the answer, I think. But I just want to make sure that it's on the record. Your Cultec chamber is going from 20 feet to 42 feet. And your calculations indicate that that's sufficient to increase, to accommodate the increased roof runoff.
That's a half inch over that roof area, not taking into account any infiltration at the times, it's complete storage. Obviously, it'll be infiltrated at the same time, but that's just a straightforward calculation of that square footage time a half inch, so.
All right, and now I'm eyeballing this, so you can tell me that I'm wrong, but I'm eyeballing this, that the Cultec chambers are moved, well, 2 of them, number 1, and they're moved, I think, 25 feet closer to the wetlands. Am I correct that this is clean water?
This is, yeah, that's
Yes, it
only
is.
roof drainage,
Yes,
that's
it
right.
Is there any impact on moving it that much? You're still
They could be
still
moved,
outside of our
25,
25-foot
right.
non-disturbance, I acknowledge that. Is there any impact?
no,
to
they
moving
could
it
be
closer?
moved if, you know, if it met the commission, if that's what you're asking, they can be moved, absolutely. But like I said, this is clean water, this is no difference than rainwater hitting the ground. But if there's some reason that you're more comfortable with it closer to the house, it can be.
No, that's why I asked the first
Yeah,
question first.
no,
Is there any
no.
impact on the wetlands?
Absolutely not.
Okay. The house is 13 feet, again, I'm eyeballing
Mm-hmm.
it, closer to the wetlands. Any impact there?
No, again, this is a change in impervious only. So with roof water being clean, no difference in impact. If anything, you're gonna lose more yard area, which probably puts more pollutants into the wetland anyway.
All right, and this is just more informational, but I did notice that in terms of the total percent of building coverage, you went from 19% to 31%. And so I was wondering what, I had forgotten what the town
We're at
bylaw is.
35.
35, number one, but number two, that doesn't apply to a cluster zone. So it doesn't apply anyway.
We did set it at 35 when we went through the zoning.
Okay.
These lots were set at 35.
They are, okay.
And it was, again, because we knew there were smaller lots, and you're gonna need setbacks and clearing areas and septic systems and driveways are gonna make it further away because of the size, so.
All right. I think all these questions need to be asked and answered because you're asking us
Yeah,
to
no, I get
determine
it.
whether or not this is a significant change or not a significant change. All right, and we have to be careful, we've got other significant change issues on the agenda tonight, so we have to be, consistent and uniform in our application.
Great.
I think those are all my questions.
Yeah, I think the big one we did bring up is we kept the disturbance area the same. We did do that.
The 5,000 square
Yes, we
feet.
just changed grass to roof area. That's all we're really asking you folks to do.
The house is more like a one level, I mean, it is a two-story, but they're older, so they wanted to have more on the first floor, so they didn't have to do the stairs so much. That's how it ended up going this way.
Understood. Questions from commissioners?
Just wanted to ask, is there any shift at all on the septic system?
It did not, actually, I shouldn't say that. We are going to extend that 4 feet. We're not going to shift it, and that's outside the 100-foot as well.
Okay. So when you talk about the 4 feet, it's going to be increased in size
It'll be increased,
by
yes,
4 feet?
but again, outside the 100-foot.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Well, I don't think it's a minor modification to add that much extra and have to take down that tree. Seems fairly, major to me. I don't know how other commissioners feel.
It may be, but let's play that out. If
We
it
talked
were,
about that.
if it were major, then they'd have to file another notice of intent, and then we'd be back at the same position saying, what kind of tree is it? What's our performance standard? Should we have 3, American elms planted? It's probably gonna be the same issue, as long as, just imagine hypothetically, if we were considering this as a new one, what would we do different? Because that's why I asked those questions. Is there an impact moving the house is 13 feet closer to the wetlands? And if the answer is no, and it's still out of the 25-foot non-disturbance zone. And if the roof runoff is clean, and even though that's 25 feet closer to the wetlands, it's still clean, and the representation is that it's not going to impact, the clean water is not going to impact by its location. If it did, they'd move it. So I'm just trying to work through this. Would we do anything differently if it were a new notice of intent and order of conditions?
And if I look at the original where we did have that roof drain area placed, we're going to impact these trees right here. Those are the same trees. You are definitely still going to be in the root zone of these trees with that excavation.
Understood. So really, that's like an internal question. It's kind of a form over substance
Is
issue.
mitigation being proposed yet?
What's that?
Are you proposing any mitigation?
At the time, we had not. We're obviously happy to, if the commission has, something we can use it under the as-built situation or whatever, or put it
You're
onto
talking
the
about
record.
Yeah, he's talking about trees.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
think that's been clear. That we
Yeah,
would-
that's fine.
Right, it's been said that there's going to be trees put in. I'm not sure how we, put that on the record that it's gonna happen, but it's definitely planned to happen. However, the commission would feel comfortable to say, okay, it's on record that you need to, not that you want to.
Right, if we determine that this is an insignificant change, then we can revise the order of conditions.
Correct.
But the revision would include the mitigation plan.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I thought that was clear, that the trees are an issue.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
And Judith, I'm not trying to take shortcuts here, but that's a real question.
No,
What would we do
I appreciate what
differently?
you're saying, yeah, and probably it would be the same as it is tonight. I can appreciate how much land was put aside for conservation, so, that's significant as well. Let me ask you one more question. The lights on the street, are they downward facing, dark sky lights?
On the new road,
Yes,
there is no streetlights.
okay, not at
Darkest
all.
ones you can get.
Okay.
Cut off.
Perfect.
There is no streetlights.
Not going in at all.
All they want is a light at the end of each driveway. That's what the town wanted, not what I wanted, it's what the town wanted.
Okay.
I had no say in it.
And downward facing, dark skylights.
I don't know what the town did on that part of it. I have to look at the planning board rules and regs when we get to that point.
And for residential lighting, you really can't get light pollution from something at that size, usually higher up with the high intensity.
It's like a light on a
LEDs.
post, Judith, at the
Yeah.
end of their driveway.
It's just,
A little light.
That's it. It's a post light. That's it.
so they don't really regulate
There's no
those.
street lights in there.
How high a post?
The normal post is what, 6 or 7 feet? That's it.
Again, not regulated to the
Okay, but
planning
no
board.
lights on the street itself.
No, there's no lights in the streets.
Do any other, if not questions, other thoughts, concerns, an idea?
To me, it seems this would be a minor modification, so.
Right, that's my view, but I don't want to, I'm not trying to, convince or persuade anybody of that.
I'm in full agreement.
And you've got some trade-off with the driveway being smaller too, the house being larger.
Anything else, Jerry? Any thoughts? Wendy?
I would concur that it's a minor change, but I also fully appreciate the concern about the 24-inch tree and would like to find out the species.
And we can do that, maybe we could do it conditioned upon. But now, let's say it were an elm, and we could just write in that there'll be a 3-to-1 performance standard of the same species of variety. The problem, if you say that, is that if it's a
Right.
Norway maple,
Exactly.
it's stuck in it.
Exactly right.
No way, no way.
So qualitatively, it would be nice to know because it might impact
Yes.
what we would require.
Right. But that's something that we could, and we've done this before, we can say, subject to a landscaping plan that is acceptable to the commission. And then the landscape architect will submit it to, or the engineer or whomever, will submit it to Kathy or Steve Ivers, and we'll take a look at it and say yay or nay. But that's, I don't think we've ever had a problem with that kind of an order of conditions that's been conditioned upon a landscape plan.
And
Never
only,
had a problem.
if only 3 trees are required, you could be generous as well.
Well,
And
he's
put more
already,
in.
he's already said, Judith, he's gonna do the whole property line on one side from the street in.
So some will be in the buffer, some won't, but it sounds like he wants to at least put.
Yeah,
this-
he wants privacy too. He wants to tree up both sides of the property line and some, if you look at the roof
And they're all
terrain,
native that he's going in, all native trees.
everything that's around here, I know he wants some spruce trees. He wants a bunch of every different thing.
It's not an answer.
So, no, but we could put that in, because as I look
When
at
we
your.
specify that, if we specify that they have to be all native that he puts in,
Yeah.
then I'll withdraw my objection.
All right, but we also need a tree survey, which may be right in front of us. But I'm looking at your old plan, and I see boy, I can't read that first one. What's that one?
So they don't know.
No, I'm gonna bring it up.
5-inch?
Which one is this one, John?
Right where the 109 is?
On the new plan?
No, the old plan, that one right there.
109.
It's right there, that's it.
12-inch right here? Oh, right there.
I
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
read it,
hold on,
it's
getting
blocked by a letter. Is it 5 inches? I think it's a 5-inch
Yeah, that's
tree.
5, yeah.
And then there's a 12-inch tree. And then,
Yeah, on the,
Copy.
and even on the initial, because I know we did, when we walked out there, the site walk, we never quantified the tree removal.
you're right.
And so when we look at the plan, like we said, I think the idea was, I can tell you right now, in this initial plan, if I look at this, if you see the grading, these trees were always gonna be removed. You can see this grading, this limited grading, we actually show the limit of clearing on that plan, right here. So all those trees are always gonna be gone. This is your limit of clearing that we call out. And this grading, in this structure here, all these trees were gonna be gone. We talked about this when we were out there. That was the limit of clearing, right here. You actually had us pull this limit.
I don't remember, I'm not saying it
Yeah,
didn't
no,
happen.
that's right, because we actually moved this limit of clearing up. We actually pulled it away a little bit to change this grading. It was requested by one of the commission members. Say, well, can you kind of pull that grading back to make it more steep? So we initially had it down here. So now we pulled this up a little bit. So yeah, we did actually talk about this already. All this
That
limit of
20
clearing,
That 24-inch tree, just putting that Cultex in there is dead.
Yeah, you can see,
On the
we-
original plan, right now, if you
Right.
look at it, it's
and
gone.
we always called it out as a limited clearing right here. That was always.
Well, it doesn't say that here in the approved plan. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees that I've got marked here,
Where-
that
where's
are
that?
right there.
We marked as
That's a
removal.
7, including the one right next to the house.
Now, that one you can save, I think, but the one,
Right, but this is it, we always called this a limited clearing right here. This clouded line, that was always gonna be, because once we do the grading here, I mean, once you start grading around these trees and changing the grade even a foot, you're gonna kill it anyway. So that was always a limited clearing.
that may have, I accept that. But this map has trees in it, and that's the approved map, and I say tree, it's a tree.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, as far as the mitigation goes, no, we're not arguing that. I'm just saying this was always going to happen.
I understand what you're saying. So I don't know if, as I counted, I just happen to have colored them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 18 trees. And you can substitute shrubs, 6, right? 6 to 1?
9,
What's that?
9 shrubs per tree,
9 shrubs per tree?
correct.
When was that?
What's that?
When was that decided?
I don't know. I thought it was 6. I
It was
thought
6 shrubs
Monday.
to a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it'd be
not
18.
6, yeah, 6.
You said 9,
For the subdivision we
Just
did, but not the
tonight.
shrubs.
Yeah, but we were adding up several trees.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I just
we
wanna
have
make
used
sure
that
that-
in the past. Is it in a regulation? No, and I think that's what somebody, I think, Jack Dolly brought that up. Well, it's not written anywhere, but we've been consistent on the
Sure.
3 to 1, and probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, we accepted 3 to 1, 3 shrubs per tree. So that would be 9,
18?
right, right? So 3 shrubs.
3
right,
shrubs
so it'd be
per
9.
tree?
Yeah.
6 shrubs.
Shrubs. per tree.
Shrubs per
I want to
tree.
revisit this during additional business at the end of the night.
Yeah, well, I think it
Yeah,
probably should
let's
be
do
written.
that, yeah.
I think that's true.
And how many trees per tree? 3 still, or are we at the
3,
1.5 for the subdivision that we did?
Well, I think we gave you the deal already
Okay.
on that. So now this is a revision. So my view would be it should be revert to the 3 to 1, because we've already given the bargain for the,
That's fine, that's
Acreage
fine.
again.
I
So
mean,
it's
he's
18
fine with
trees
plant
or 18
trees. We've
shrubs
talked
or
about
some
it.
type of mix thereof, is that what I'm
yes,
hearing?
that's
Okay.
correct. You can mix them.
Yeah, and we have to get you, obviously, a landscaping plan at some point that you're gonna change, put in the order of conditions that says we're gonna,
Right. And the order will simply say native. Give the performance standard and then native trees and shrubs.
inside the jurisdictional area.
Correct.
You can,
If you wanted to
Whatever.
put like some sort of crazy tree in front of his yard that's outside the 100, that would be okay, I would imagine, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, you don't have to replace them
Right.
where they are, where they
Okay,
were.
right,
Sometimes people plant them.
Palm trees behind the 100. Inlet. Go ahead.
You're not native.
well, you get the summer out of it, and that's about it.
Wasn't there
All right,
one
so
up
with
at
all of
Thomas's, nursery, didn't Bunny Thomas have a big pine tree?
He did.
He did, he still has it for the winter.
Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question, a comment, suggestion? Hearing none, is there any need for further, I think there's a consensus.
Can we just go over it one last time? How many trees are coming out of our jurisdiction altogether?
I've got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So 18 trees, or for one of those trees, 3 shrubs for every tree. So you understand that? Okay.
So three trees or 3 shrubs per tree. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
No, it's 6 shrubs per tree.
That was 3.
No, it's 3 trees per tree, and then it's
6
6
shrubs
shrubs per tree.
Okay.
All right.
And all those trees need to be in the jurisdictional area, in the buffer zone. Is that correct or not?
No, we've never required that.
Okay.
You can plant, we've had people plant, it happens to
No,
be
that's fine.
Plant
jurisdictional,
them at their neighbors.
but off property.
As long as they're planted.
But they all have to be native. If they're going to be included
Yes.
in this count, they are native.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. But we've had people plant street trees around the town. We've had people plant at Turner's Pond, and you get full credit.
Okay. But you have to tell you guys, you can't just go out and plant them.
Correct.
Yeah, we're down with the shovel, the DPW looking
I'm just
at you.
doing this for the commission, it's okay.
Sure enough.
Okay.
Need a clarification,
Yes.
please. If we've just gone from 18 trees or 18 bushes or a mix thereof.
So.
No, not 18 or 18.
3 shrubs would replace one of the mitigation trees, not the actual tree that's taken down. So,
Okay, so the wording has to be very clear on this.
Right, and we bounced between 3 and 6 per tree.
I understand, and that's part of the confusion.
Correct. So which is it?
I thought we had said 6 originally, and that's what we'd had on other sites.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I think we should
Shrubs?
stick,
Yeah,
because
yeah, 6
sometimes you put a
shrubs.
shrub in and it's only
6
that. big.
shrubs.
Yeah, I heard both numbers too, but we were sticking with 6 now. so-
Yeah,
Right.
6.
Yep.
Is that the
That's why I wanted to
clarification?
raise it so that we didn't have.
Yeah, I did hear
Yeah.
both out there.
Yeah.
You get that, Kathy?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there anything else? I mean, I'm looking to see if there's a consensus here to issue this as a minor modification so that we can revise the existing order of conditions.
And did you get it? So 1 tree comes down, 3 new ones are planted.
Correct.
Or 18 shrubs.
And there is a minimum diameter.
6.
No, 6.
No, it's per replacement tree, not per, no,
No, it's
So-
per
18
tree.
So we
shrubs
have
for a
to-
tree?
no,
No.
for the 3 trees,
Oh, yeah, but you said
take-
per tree, that's
of
why,
the replacement trees.
right.
Okay.
Of
instead doing
replacement.
3 replacement
Yeah, I get it now,
trees.
Jeff.
So you're multiplying by 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
What's she saying? Of
It's an
3
arithmetic
trees,
thing.
it'd be 18.
And there is a minimum diameter for the replacement
So it's
tree.
not,
Correct.
it's not a direct equal, it's not 1 tree equals 6 shrubs. It's 1 tree you take down equals 3 replacement trees.
yeah,
Correct.
And then if you
Or-
don't want to use those, and those 3 replacement trees,
6
it's
shrubs.
each 6 each. So 1 tree does equal 18.
18, yeah,
Okay.
So you're gonna put
1 tree equals 18 shrubs then.
yeah.
That's the number you got, okay.
And Jerry,
When
your
you think
question
of
was
how much
caliber?
water a tree
Just to
pulls out.
inform, the minimum caliber of the replacement trees. What is it, 1 1/4 inch?
No, it's
No.
usually 2, at least 2.5.
2.5, okay.
2.5, is that right?
At least.
So what if the tree's like 6 inches? Does that limit as many trees? Yeah, see, we could go on with this all night. This just goes on and on.
It's a fair point.
I think that's what
You
we
don't
say
want
at
to go on
least.
anymore.
What's that?
Yeah, I agree.
At least 2.5.
Yeah, we've actually not been consistent on that, because sometimes we've required 3 inches, and sometimes we've been 2.5, and you are correct. So why don't we say at least 2.5 caliber? Got it? All right, so I think there's a consensus? Right, all right, so then is there a motion to make a determination that this is not a significant change to the order conditions, and then we can vote to revise
So moved.
Seconded.
with the conditions that we've stated? Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Good, unanimous, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, thank you.
All right.
This is the one with the planting plan. I believe.
Why don't you leave it on, maybe, somebody else might be able to use it, I don't know. Okay, next on the agenda is notice of intent, 1017 Brook Road. This is an interesting one.
I thought it was over.
So did we.
Last time I saw you, we were good.
I know.
You, I would.
We can share this one.
Okay.
Beautiful, thanks.
Because that's brutal.
This is the one up in the hill that we wanted to see.
Thanks.
It's not.
It's the next one. It's the next one, yeah, here's yours. Thank you. Considering condition hearing.
The other one.
Yeah, this is the one by Uncle Road, correct? The one we-
And for the public's benefit, this is an interesting case because, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
We had a public meeting on site, and at the time had a full discussion about, trees that would be removed on the Brook Road side and replaced. And we actually issued an order of conditions, and as we were leaving the property, our Eagle Scout sharp-eyed Mr. Doyle saw a letter on one of the buildings that was printed on DEP stationery, and said that there had been a release of a hazardous material that was hazardous to human habitation, and everybody should run for their lives. And it also said that there was a DEP number and a telephone number. So we looked at it and said, oh my word, this is terrible. There's a release here we don't know about. So we had another vote and voted to stay the issuance of the order of conditions until we could figure out what the story was with the release. And I know Kathy and others did some research, and the town apparently was informed of this alleged release about a year ago. And both the Board of Health and the DPW, I think, both investigated it and called the number on the letter. Oh, by the way, the letter was from the wrong region. We're in the northeast region for DEP, and this was from the...
Southeast.
Southeast.
No, who do we...
We're northeast.
We're
But
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry,
northeast.
we're northeast.
But the letter was in the
We're
southeastern
West
region.
was-
Yeah.
We
Well, that-
discussed that at the meeting.
Correct,
Yes,
yeah.
I-
They had it was the wrong region, because it said it was from the southeast region, and we're in the northeast region. So that was troublesome. And then I guess the Board of Health and DPW made calls to the number that was listed on the letter, and a fellow from DEP answered and said, I don't know what you're talking about, because the number of, and everything's coded in the DEP world, so that there's a number for each release. There's no such number. So it was a fraudulent letter. It was on DEP stationery, or it appeared to be, but the person who answered the phone didn't know anything about it. There's no DEP letter, and they're in the wrong region. So it appears to be a fraudulent letter.
But then we found that phone in the brook, and one of the compounds that we searched
Correct?
was described as causing
Phone,
a foam like that.
right. But that would have been upstream because that brook was, when we saw it, where it crossed under the road, that was on the cemetery side.
Opposite side of the bridge.
Yes.
Correct.
But it was heading towards Brook Road.
Yes.
Because it went right
Right.
alongside of the
That's
property,
right.
if you're looking at the right-hand side here, and it would go down the hill.
So it was coming into the area.
Right, yeah, I recall that.
Yeah.
So it's
But
upstream.
if it's a fraudulent letter, it's a fraudulent.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I was wondering how that matches up, because it didn't say where that spill was, it just said it was on that property somewhere.
that is
Is
correct.
there any
Did
way?
it identify that address as?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it did.
And I can expand on what probably occurred.
As a down gradient property or in a.
It didn't say where, it just said on the property,
Correct.
okay?
It wasn't a notice.
And the other thing too is it was put up, or it was dated about a month and a half before the bank foreclosed on the person that was living there at the time. It was convenient, because if you saw that, the bank's not gonna, typically, they're gonna be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The bank's not gonna take possession of the property. So between that, being southeast, and the code number for each district has 01, and then the number.
RTN Release tracking number.
Exactly, it was 00, which doesn't exist.
Yes, correct.
And then the other thing is, if we used our northeast number, it would have been for a property up in Georgetown for some completely other, it was a gas
Someone
station.
checked the Northeast District for anything with that property?
Yeah, there was, if
And it
you.
was clean?
If you put the number in, there was a case that had something up in Georgetown.
Right, but say if you do the reverse, if you go to the Northeast District and put in the address of that
Oh,
property.
there was nothing.
Okay, that was my
Art
question.
Allen, and
That was my
we had a
question.
big discussion literally that Monday.
Okay.
So that's the backstory. So I think what's before us tonight is to determine whether or not there's anything else we can or should do. And if it appears, if it is as it appears to be, a fraudulent notice for whatever purpose, then we should consider releasing the stay and the order conditions and impose the conditions that we agreed to on site 3 weeks ago. Unless somebody else has an idea. I mean, I'm satisfied that the town, because the Board of Health was satisfied, and I think the fire department,
Yes, the fire
was
department was also,
involved.
and the building department said they were never notified of any hazardous leak
Okay.
on that property.
So we've got pretty much all the town agencies involved following up on it, and it seems to have been made up out of whole cloth. So I would entertain, unless we have other questions, or abutters or members of the public have a concern or a question. I can't even think of the name of the chemical. What was it? It sounded bad.
The funny thing is whoever did the letter, the LSP at Ecotech said it's pretty smart because that compound, you detect like parts per billion.
Is it dioxin or something?
Yeah, it's some, like, if there was petroleum there, you could dig down and say, look, there's no petroleum here. But whatever this compound is almost impossible to detect.
All right, well, I'm satisfied that the town, in its different agencies, has conducted due diligence and determined this to be a false alarm. And I would be comfortable entertaining a motion to remove the stay and issue the order of conditions that we had already voted on.
So moved, and with thanks to everybody who homeworked this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy.
Seconded.
A second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Did you want to say something, Linda?
No, it's not relevant to the vote, but I would like to ask a question afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just curious, is this a common thing that happens
never
with
seen it.
foreclosures?
I've never seen it.
I've never heard of it.
It's a terrible shame, the amount of staff resources that went into having to research this.
Yeah, but if I saw it, I wouldn't buy it at foreclosure. I mean, if I had the money to buy it in the first place. But-
The funny thing was the southeast, because we'd mentioned that when we were looking at, why would it be southeast?
Yeah.
You know, that was and thank goodness it was, and northeast would have been a little scarier, because you would have been like, okay, that's the correct
Yeah.
issuing body, but
All right, well, you've got your vote? You all set to go?
excellent.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, wait,
We're not going to
they
change, right?
submitted a revised planting plan that we never approved.
Oh, right, it was conditioned upon the planning plan. You're right.
You can, we put in a list of the species that we could be putting in. They're all native, I believe.
They are, yes.
Because Scott did it. We're planning on putting a screen border along the side between the sugar bakers and the new dwelling. We were placing 3 trees down by that outlet that we
Yes.
spoke about on site.
Yes.
And then the remaining 10 trees we're going to plant in this area where that bowl is. And I don't want to, obviously put them in a line. We want to put them where they'll fill in.
Oh, good.
So they'll checkerboard around.
All right, and you see the list of trees?
Yeah,
Is
they're
that good?
fine. Yep.
Wendy, Ingrid, Judith?
Fine.
I'm not excluding the male side, but other than maple trees, I wouldn't.
What kind of maples? Great.
Just a suggestion, it would be nice to have some variety other than just a military line of eastern red cedars.
Like what?
Staggered.
I mean, the problem runs into is we have a very narrow window between the 2 houses.
Right.
And hopefully they're hoping it grows in like a wall, like a little wall. I mean, we're literally 20 feet off and the other house is about 12.
Well,
I know
suppose
what you're saying.
If that's the look they're after, I guess I can understand. It would be nice to have
Staggered.
a little bit of variety and, yeah, some variation.
What would you
How
want?
about
Like,
where you're off the house?
Huh?
How about the sections where you are off the house, staggering?
I thought that's what you just said.
I thought that's. what
no,
you said.
I'm talking about the staggering of the trees in these areas here.
Yes.
This area in here, were you gonna stagger them more, or you were trying to create a wall? Right?
I talked to Linda about it, like Linda Sugarbaker. This is what we like.
There's actually a dead row there now, and it's gonna
Right.
more or less be replaced, so I know what you're saying, but it's gonna be more formal in this area, because literally,
Makes sense.
you're only 5 feet off at the driveway, so,
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
I mean, maybe we can stagger them, one on his land, one on yours, I don't know.
I let Linda decide.
Yeah,
She's more
don't
into
get in
it.
trouble with it.
But you were talking about staggering them off to the right.
The ones off to the right, like, right now, we sort of show them in a line.
Yes.
But we want to have the ability to fill them in spots that make more
More
sense.
natural
And
looking.
and definitely not a line of them.
And Wendy, that's your point.
Pardon me?
That was your point, wasn't it? Because they are going to do what you suggested on the other line of trees,
On
on the right-hand side.
the right-hand side, yeah, I was looking at the left-hand
Yeah,
side.
got it, okay.
Yeah,
You were looking at the, between the boat houses.
Yes.
yes, yeah,
Maybe we can do
I
something.
understand what you're saying now, yeah,
I have,
thank you.
Good to go.
On the plan, you show inner riparian and outer riparian. Why do you do that? What's the significance of showing us that?
Because from the inner to the outer riparian, you can do 5,000 square feet of
Different.
modification,
So that's under
disturbance, and you don't have that ability in the internal.
Thank you.
That's it. We already took the vote, so
Thank you.
No, you have to vote to approve the planting
The
plan.
planting plan.
yes, we should have a formal vote. We actually already voted to issue it, but it was conditioned upon acceptance of the plan. So is there a motion to accept the planning plan?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion, all in favor? Good to go. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
This is final, right?
I'm good to go, right?
We just want to add just one comment, and that is, when we saw that notification, we had to follow up on it, as you
No,
can
absolutely.
understand. And part of that following up was to protect everybody involved.
Yeah, no, I looked at it, and went,
Especially if you're living there.
yeah.
Yeah, right?
All right, thanks all.
And the wall was going to be,
All right, next, number 5 on the agenda, modification of order of conditions, 151 Woodland Road.
Oh, the 2.5, that's a nasty one.
right, and even as they built
Do we have anybody?
I don't see anyone.
Wow.
Continue to March.
Yes. I don't know if everybody looked at this,
I looked at it.
because this is also a request to revise an order of conditions. And we'd have to make the same determination whether or not it's a significant
Significant or insignificant.
difference, that would, if it is significant, it would require a new notice of intent. This is the second or third time we've been asked to revise this.
Yes, the last time it actually facilitated a new notice of intent.
Yeah,
So-
it was made, you're right. But without the applicant here, we're not really in a position to, we don't have anybody to question. So I guess we should continue it until March 17th. Will you ask John Sullivan if he would like to attend?
Yes.
If you'd like the revision? All right,
there goes his St. Patrick's Day party.
true enough. True enough. But I do ask you to take a look. There are some significant things that you, well, potentially significant things that you should look at. One of them is the addition of there's a 5-foot retaining wall going in, so that there's a fill change, there's an elevation change. And it may be that they're simply trying to flatten out the backyard. But there is an addition of a, 40, 50-foot retaining wall that goes from 2 feet high to 5 feet high at the other end. So there are some things to look at there. Next on the agenda is, I keep losing my front sheet.
Okay, I've got an extra.
Thanks. Would be number 6, and that is enforcement order 700 Canton Avenue. Is there anyone here for 700 Canton Avenue? And I confess, I probably should have written a letter. We have the letter in our packet, and Mr. Johnson has requested that we reconsider the fine that we imposed for offense that was different from that allowed in the order of conditions.
Your
So-
letter was in the package. It is.
No, not my letter.
His letter.
His letter.
Your letter.
I think both.
Your letter is
both
at the
letters,
end.
Also,
both
the
Your letter
the
attached.
violation letter.
Oh, the violation, yeah, but
October
that goes
28th?
back to October.
Okay.
That's an earlier one. And then Mr. Johnson wrote in December,
Oh, and you
So there's
responded?
an additional violation notice.
yeah, this is a subsequent
Subsequent
violation.
violation.
The first one was a violation by the previous owner.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that was the one where we asked him to put in escrow $5,000, because Mr. Johnson, as the new owner, didn't do anything. He just bought the house. So we ended up finding many differences in the as-built as compared to what we had permitted. And then the fine total $5,000. But that came out of an escrow account. So Mr.
That's
Johnson, what's that?
That's done.
That's done.
Okay.
And then he came back and said, oh, I want to put
Yeah,
up a
that's
fence.
the
We
old
were actually on
letter.
site.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
John
and there was a
sent you
section of
the-
that
yeah,
fence that
okay,
was in
yeah,
our
so I was
jurisdiction.
confused.
so-
Correct.
Buffer,
Yeah.
correct.
And then we had a meeting here, and I think Jim Burke was representing the owner. And Judith, I think you suggested that the fence be wood.
Yes.
Because of
Oh,
concerns
yes.
with the deterioration of plastic.
Plastic.
Yeah, I remember this.
And then, and Jim Burke said, yeah, it's okay. And then apparently there was some miscommunication with the owner, so they built a fence that was made out of a high-grade plastic, but
But still.
not wood.
Yes, AZAC is actually not, it's a very high-quality material. I have it on my hands.
It's an engineered lumber, but
Yes.
plastic is
And
not a
it's-
fair description of it,
No, it's not.
I believe.
So,
So in any event, we had a discussion at a public meeting, and we went back and forth, and I think, Wendy, you and I talked about percentages of, it's a very expensive fence.
Yes.
So I was a little concerned with using a percentage of the total cost. We ended up at $1,000. And he, as you see in the letter, has protested that fine. He's not here, so we should continue that. One of my suggestions would be to take a look at the fence and see if that affects anybody's position that we've taken on the fine. I think it was a unanimous vote when we issued it, but if we took a look at it, that might give us a sense of what it was. And I confess, I'll fall on my sword on this, because I did not contact Mr. Johnson. I mean, obviously, it was on the agenda, and it's on the website, but if he didn't have advance notice, I can perhaps understand why he's not here today. So my suggestion is that we continue this to a site walk. It certainly won't take very long. And then do the reconsideration there.
I agree.
Yeah?
I've seen it.
I've seen the fence.
I've seen it.
I've driven by
Yeah,
it a dozen times.
What percentage of it is in our jurisdiction? Like a tenth?
Oh, the whole fence?
Yeah.
It's probably a little more than a tenth, but you've
What
linear
additional-
feet, I'm not sure.
What additional resource value would wood provide over AZAC that would justify the $1,000 fine?
But we discussed this. We
did,
discussed it,
yeah.
and
I'm
we
just-
put an order together. And I don't know why we're revisiting the order.
I-
Our order should be
I have-
respected.
Sure, it should. And I think that we just need to be more cautious about how we issue our orders, in that we're not dictating personal opinions as opposed to what's reasonable that for a property owner to be able to do with their own property. So
That would
I
have been
just
a
want to
good
make sure
comment.
that is in the record.
Yeah, and that's a fair comment, right? But I think there are two different and distinct issues. One is what we should have done in the first place in terms of the issue of the order of conditions. The second one is, when he violated the order of conditions, does that warrant a fine? And those are really separate issues.
Correct.
So I think you're going back to the original order of conditions. Was that appropriate? And I think that's fair game
But-
if he files a motion for reconsideration.
I think
Reconsider
levying a
anything.
fine without providing an opportunity to defend himself or even provide any feedback.
But his agent was here before us.
Yeah, he was here.
That's the,
His
in
agent
my
is here,
opinion,
his
he's the
paid
culprit.
agent is
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So if he wants $1,000 back, he should sue his agent to say, you didn't tell me about this, you owe me.
I agree with you,
Am I right,
one
John?
hundred and
Hey,
ten
that's
percent.
your cousin, isn't it? Your
No.
son or
No,
brother?
please, please.
Sorry, Jerry.
I love the guy. But I have to agree with you, it was more the violation of the order, as opposed, it could have very well gone back to ASIC, the engineered lumber. It's a beautiful looking fence. Only a portion of it is in our jurisdiction, but it was the violation of the order.
Yeah. And it was reasonable, it wasn't take down that fence and, comply with the order. We said, well, the fence is there and it costs what, like $20,000 or something?
Oh, God, no, it was much more. It was wildly expensive.
I thought,
Well, so then we said, so what's $1,000? It isn't,
Kathy, what
Onerous.
was the cost of the fence?
It was over $60,000.
so all the more so.
All the
It's
more
not-
so what?
It's not onerous on the homeowner to say, and by the way, here's an extra $1,000 you have to put out. I mean, if it was some, homeowner who, it's just different. When
Okay,
it's-
but I think these are all fair issues to be discussed in the presence of Mr. Johnson. So therefore, I'm suggesting we can get this, put it to bed very quickly. If we meet on Saturday morning, we can do it in short order.
You're not here.
This Saturday?
I'm not here this Saturday, and I'm not here on the 29th. I think that's a Saturday,
What
too.
are the next couple of Saturdays?
I think that's it. I think it's the
15 and
29th.
22nd, 29.
Hold on.
And then the 7th of March.
Okay, I'm almost positive I can do 7th of March. Hold on, let's see.
And Steve Iris will be back on the 7th. In other words, I don't have to do a sidewalk now.
I could do the 7th of March. I can't do
you
the
do the
next
7th?
three.
I can, yeah.
3, Hans,
I believe I can, yes.
Arthur,
Good.
Jerry?
I don't know at this point.
Okay. Wendy?
February is-
Which date are you,
The 7th of March?
oh, unfortunately, I have a tentative conflict that I won't know about for, it's possible that I might, maybe, but
Okay.
it's possible. I
So
may
we've
not.
got 5 yeses and 1 maybe, and 1 I don't know. But that's our quorum, so why don't we set it up 8, I'm sorry, what time?
8:30?
8:30? Okay, all right.
So
8:30?
this Saturday is not a possibility?
It is for me.
It is for me.
Not for me.
Not for me.
I can do it.
I can do it.
I can do it.
I can do it.
Oh, then let's do it this Saturday.
I can't do it. This
That's
is-
okay, I'll take the file with me.
Okay.
Is it just for this one site, or do we have other visits?
Be the only one.
Just
That's
this.
the only one, I guess 175 Governor Stoughton Lane is informational. I'm not aware of what's going on in
That's
number 7.
streetlights, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But you
but-
might want to take a look at 33 Hurlcroft. That's
The what?
DCR property that,
Which one?
that's it now.
Hurlcroft?
The trees fell.
Hillcroft?
Yes, Hurlcroft.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we could swing by there. That sounds like a real simple one. What, number 33, Hillcroft?
It was 33.
If we waited until the 7th, would there possibly be other things for us to include in our visit?
No.
Okay. It's going to be.
No, I don't
short
think so,
Saturday.
because we wouldn't have another meeting in between, so.
Right.
Although, remember, we do have a meeting on the 26th.
Actually, there could be, because March 4th is when all documents have to be submitted.
Submitted
Yeah,
for-
so we could leave it open. That's a
Before the
possibility.
meeting on the 17th.
Oh, that's one, okay.
Right, if we spotted something that we knew we were gonna, do a
26th or
sidewalk meeting.
25th? I have the 25th. That's
It's-
the joint?
It's a Wednesday? I thought it was the 26th.
Oh, it is. Okay, I have it on the wrong day then. Okay. Good
It's a
thing.
Wednesday.
Okay, so I put it on Tuesday for some reason.
Okay.
I'm glad we figured that out.
All right, I know we're talking about 2 different things here, but we're good to go on the 7th. All right, Saturday at 8:30, 700 Canton Avenue. And Kathy, can you write to Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, and just
Okay,
say
and
that we'll...
John, just articulate, what is the point of the sidewalk? I mean, what do we? what are we
To
gonna
be
do
there
when we get here?
to see the fence.
Okay, so,
Just
Even
discuss
though we-
his request.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
The purpose of it, we have to do it at a public meeting, but he's asked us to reconsider,
Right.
and I think we're duty-bound to reconsider. And both issues. One is looking at the fence and seeing if it's, whatever, appropriate for the environment. The other one is to look at it from the procedural perspective, if you violated the order. And there's another, it's almost like, I just was arguing a case on contempt of court, and a person was found in contempt, and the Supreme Court said the judge was wrong when he ordered whatever the order was. But the person who violated the order was still in contempt, because even though the judge was wrong, you can't violate an order unless you appeal it. So that, he should have come back to us to ask for reconsideration,
that's
exclusive of the fine, just
Yeah.
of the original order. So we've got really two issues.
But he didn't know about it because Jim didn't tell him about it. So again, you know, his agent should have told him the correct fence.
Sure. You are correct. All right, so that's on for the 7th, and then the, I guess it's, if I can jump over 175 Governor Stoughton for a
So
moment.
the
Oh,
15th
wait.
is out.
We're now back to the 7th?
Did
Oh,
you
I'm
just-
sorry, I apologize, yeah, I'm sorry, I had the 7th on my brain,
Right.
oh.
Okay.
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 So you
We're fine on
guys
the
are doing it
15th.
this weekend?
Not the
I'm not here, okay.
7th.
No, we're on the 15th.
We're on the 22nd of March, right?
What?
This,
No, I don't think anybody said the
this
22nd.
coming,
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's this Saturday,
this Saturday, the
this
15th.
coming Saturday.
the 15th.
All right.
We are meeting this Saturday.
Right,
At
at
8:30.
8:30 at 700 Cannon Avenue.
Exactly.
Okay, I know,
I
I
just have a,
That's all
I will not be here.
just one
It's
question.
late.
Today's Tuesday, so if letters go in the mail tomorrow,
yeah.
that doesn't give them a lot of time for the homeowner, if they have plans on a 3-day weekend, not to be there.
3-day weekend?
Monday.
17th is a holiday.
Oh,
Yeah.
how could I forget? Which holiday?
President's
President's
Day.
Federal offices are closed.
Yeah, I know. But businesses are not.
Poor John.
So it would have to be the 22nd.
I'm not out of it, we just work a lot, we don't close for anything. It's a fight whether we close for Christmas.
All right, why don't we shoot for the 15th? If he can't do it, backup is the 7th?
Yes,
How's that?
good idea.
That
So we'll
sounds
do
good.
on the 15th?
15th.
15, but if he can't make it,
Hold on,
our
Kathy, do you
default
have
date.
time to do things?
No.
No, so we need the 15th.
No, I mean, we can't do it on the 15th. Because the letter would have to be sent out, and then he would have to respond to
Yeah,
the
but
letter.
you could call him perhaps?
Oh, I could call him, okay. I thought you wanted it in writing. And then I would have to post it by
Yes.
Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, so it would have to be at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. And then the backup date will be the 7th.
Okay.
We'll try for the 15th, if he can make it, if he can't, then we'll do it for the 7th.
Why did we skip the 22nd, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't know, that's why I was wondering.
Why did we skip all those other Saturdays?
Because I think everybody was, we had
Yeah.
5
I'm not
yeses
here
on the
on those
7th.
two either. But if you have a quorum, you know, I'm definitely here on the 7th.
All right. You want to take a look at the 22nd and try that one as our backup
Yeah, I
date?
think it's unfair to Kathy to say, you know, come in at 8 o'clock in the morning to get stuff out. I mean.
I'm here at 7:30 anyway, so that's
Whatever.
I can do the 22nd.
22nd.
3, Hans?
I believe I can, yes.
Okay. Wendy?
I cannot. I'm out of town.
Hey,
It's the
Jerry.
end of February vacation.
Right.
Yeah.
Jerry?
I don't know.
Okay, so we've got a quorum on the 22nd, right?
I'm not here.
I know, but
Yeah.
1,
Yeah, we
2,
have
3, 4.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's, we've got a quorum. So why don't we do the 15th, and then the backup date will be the 22nd.
Why don't we just say the 22nd?
Gee, come on, guys, we got to make decisions. We got to move this, okay?
Well, just in case he says no, you'd like to give him another date, the 22nd, and then if he says he can't make that, we can do the 7th. So if you can't do this Saturday, there's options, 2 options.
Don't give him any more choices.
Okay.
2 are enough.
We have
Get
2.
it done.
What happened to the 29th? That's another.
No. 15th or the 22nd.
Okay.
Done. All right. Next one is 175 Governor Stoughton Lane. Do we have, let me skip that for a moment. Additional business? Do we have additional business?
I have one.
Okay. I'm not asking for it now, but I have to recuse myself from
I,
Governor Stoughten Lane.
we got that email from Ned Corcoran about 1455 Canton Avenue,
Yeah, so why don't we do that in additional business?
but he never passed anything in, and Jim Burke didn't know what I was talking about.
Did or did not
Did not.
Did you call Jim?
Jim was, I mean,
Oh,
Jim
that's Jim
DeSalle,
DeSalle.
yeah.
Oh. I can't remember if it was Jim DeSalle or Jim Burke that was with us. I think it was Jim DeSalle.
Yeah, he said he doesn't have the plan, so I wasn't sure
Then it must have been Jim Burke.
if Ned was,
We can
Spoke
put,
to you.
we can put that on additional business, and I'll come back as soon as you come and find me. Okay?
okay,
Sounds good.
Do we pick a time for the sidewalk?
8:30.
8:30. Judith, We were asleep. We were asleep when we decided on the time.
What time is it?
8:30.
Dang it.
Why?
Okay.
Bang it.
So let's do this one then. 175 Governor Stoughton Lane, Woodlot Road,
We don't have
the Pulte development,
Not posted
for those of
tomorrow.
us
I have to do it now.
know it from Town Farm, all the other names for it. Lights were put up by the contractor with the approval of the town, and there are 2 lights at the end on Unquity. So I think I did some research on this, and in our order of conditions specifically, we did not specifically say they have to be downward-facing dark sky lights. However, before it came before us, originally the select board had a contract with Pulte, and within that they specified that there could be no lights showing out, they had to be dark sky lights. And the planning board as well, they specified it. So when we came along, we could make things more strict, but we couldn't deny what those 2 contracts had in place. So I think it was miscommunication. I think the developer is not at all opposed to changing the lights. They just want to get it done to our satisfaction and move on. That's the impression I got. So I had sent out pictures. I have additional pictures all over town. There are mostly every light is a dark sky light. So in front of Central Ave, there's about 6 different types. And I think you've seen them as well. Down by the estuary, downward-facing dark sky lights. This is right in front of, as well, the estuary by the yacht club. At the new Hendry's development, all within our jurisdiction, again, downward-facing dark sky lights. So I think what we would do is, Kathy, if you could forward these lights to our last contract there, I think it's Mike,
Yes.
Yes.
and show him the pictures and see if he could come before us at the next meeting and tell us what he would prefer, then we could just okay it. I don't want to dictate to him.
But just to clarify, it's not in our order of conditions?
It's not.
It's not. But
That's
it's
why
But it's in the planning,
Yes, with your contracts with Pulte,
okay.
as to what they're required to do.
So don't they have to,
Yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah,
going.
is that where you're
Would it be
going?
more
Yeah.
appropriate for us to
right,
issue some kind of memo or letter to the planning board to,
and then have them?
I don't know. I think it's much
Unfortunately-
easier. We're just about there.
This was in the notice of intent, this type
Which
of
is?
light.
it is consistent with what's in the notice of intent?
Okay,
Yes.
So,
just wanna make sure we're the right
So,
And,
folks to do it.
and so I think the traction in terms of the regulatory backup would be through, I totally agree. If the developer's amenable to make the change, have them come in. But, I think we just need to be cautious as to who has the ability to enforce it.
well, what
So this was in the notice of intent, but it wasn't, so the image was there, but it wasn't specified in writing?
as far as the shape of the light
so
post and
this
the
is-
design was approved by the town, planning and selectmen, and the electrician at DPW and DPW, but as far as the way the lights shine, it's supposed to be downcast. So-
And the other complication, Hans, is it's on property that's owned by the state.
With DCR.
It's DCR. This is within the reservation. So it's another reason why we have to emphasize the importance. Plus, there are the 2 vernal pools there, one on one side and one on the other. I think they're going to do this willingly because, again, they just want to
Yes.
move on.
You can't really tell by the detail here that it would be lighting in the way that it is.
It's not currently.
It's bright. I drive by it
Yeah.
every day, so.
And they said they made a mistake.
Yeah, I think there was lack of
Yeah.
communication, basically.
There was an email.
Yes.
I think I forwarded to.
Yeah, like I
I-
said, I think that if they're amenable to make the change, we'll just let them make the change.
I would say,
And if we get pushback, then
yeah, if they just come in at the next meeting and say, well, of the town-approved lighting.
Do we need them in, I think is the question that's on the
Oh,
table.
okay.
But doing it by memo so that we don't have to Is that what,
Well, if the developer, if we can proceed as we, with the request,
Yes, yeah.
and if they push back, then I think we defer
them
to
in.
the other board.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
them push back at this point.
So-
I think it is, miscommunication, and, the other lights are all approved by the town. We're not asking something extraordinary or unusual.
Wasn't this connected to the retaining wall situation?
Yeah,
And what was the final resolve of the retaining wall?
we hadn't resolved it. We were still
So are we gonna
discussing.
separate this from the retaining wall,
I
or?
would.
You think so, not include them as, a little incentive to move along? What do you think, Arthur? No?
The two distinct matters, they're two different property situations.
Okay.
So my instinct is to treat them
I agree.
individually.
Keep them separate.
Okay. So, I would say then, in terms of the lighting, Kathy, if you could, like I say, send out these pictures and see if, they want to choose one, and I think come in at the next meeting, Hans, because then
Yeah.
this is issue of the wall still,
And then,
in the wetland.
yeah, there's an opportunity to
And
to
if they
bring that
pick
up
one
and
of these
resolve
lights,
the-
we can say fine.
And the planning board is gonna be brought in the loop, at least in the informational
Yes,
purposes.
I have-
Because
yeah.
they're the, okay, all right,
I CC'd,
good.
Kathy, do you need this back?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Kathy.
They do say they're in the process of rectifying it with the town.
Yeah.
So I think the,
Yeah, it sounds like everything.
yeah.
so you want me to send the pictures and ask if they, to come into the March 17th meeting?
Well,
Oh. You want them to submit?
If they want, they could submit early and we can approve it.
Well,
Yeah.
if they're seeking to rectify the situation, then hopefully they'll have a solution to propose
yeah.
by that time.
And our only limitation is it's downward, and whatever they wanna do aesthetically is up to them.
Right, that's my feeling too.
Pretty subjective.
I mean, most of these lights around town are really quite attractive and, look like a town.
Thank you for doing that research for us, Judy.
In the pouring rain, I'm taking.
But
So
they are
Kath-
glaringly bright.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And again, in the Blue Hills Reservation, right next to Vernal Pool, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Should I go fetch John?
Yeah. I think we'll.
Well, hold on just one second. So Kathy, so you're going to forward the pictures? And also talk to Chase Berkeley. I know he's been in the loop as well, the DPW director.
Yes, and I sent you Jack's email
I saw that too.
that they were involved with the design and
Yeah.
of the lamp posts.
And in terms of the stone wall, where are we at? Have we advised them of a violation? What have we done?
Yes, I believe Steve Ives' note said you were going to try to combine the two, like if you give us the lights, we might give this, but now
Yeah,
they're
okay.
two separate.
Issues, but he was dealing with both of them.
Right.
So he'll be back on the 1st of March?
Yes, should I put the enforcement order for the wall? Well, it wasn't enforcement order, they wanted the modification, right, for the wall?
Right, right.
Put that back on the agenda for the 17th?
There's an issue of fine for the wall too, is there?
Yes.
You were holding off until the lights, so it's been continued.
Let's continue it till March and we can
March
discuss
17th.
the fine then as well.
So put the lights and the wall for the March 17th meeting.
Exactly. Two separate issues.
Okay, correct.
Okay, Ingrid, you could probably get you.
Ooh, wind damage.
Where's that?
Spellcraft Road,
What do they need,
Do you
permission to
guys want
remove
that signed or the
the tree?
conditions while we're
because of the
withdrawn?
marsh down here, yeah.
So 42.
Was that the back porch in the room off of, over near California Ave? Okay.
Where's my little-
On this side of California Ave,
Wentworth Farms, we approved the amendment.
just off Squam Street. West Squam. Did you have fun?
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for the,
Get some work done while you're on there.
I just had to check.
Yeah, you call your open office.
No, my
It never
son,
closes?
my son Brendan is having his first child tonight.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, but she went in last night, so it's just been a while. Not quite 24 hours. That's not fun.
We have a son, Brenda.
Do you?
Nice name.
Oh, this is the third.
So we approved Ranch, Wentworth.
Co-worker. What's just technical.
Three should be.
Oh, really? That's
For the job.
double trouble.
I feel like it's big quick.
Yeah.
Oh, we got.
Which one is this?
This is the conditions for,
Nope. You did
Okay,
third.
you give me a
Which
name.
one is this, Kathy?
this is,
Keep it
First one
rolling.
is 52
Keep it rolling.
52 Ford Ranch.
I think she's making them up and
Wentworth
just
Farm.
keeping us busy.
Wentworth Farm.
And then one is a modification amendment for Wentworth Farms, and the third one is 1017 Brook Road.
You wanted us to put the folders in the recycle packet? Okay, I'll do you, oh, okay, I already did it.
That's what I got to the user.
Quarter inch road. That's quarter inch road. Septic.
All right, no, yeah, we're set. All right, that was 7. 8 is additional business. Do we have any additional business, Gavin? Yes, Ingrid.
So I just wanted to bring up an observation. So with the Hendrys, they were required, I think, to put barriers on the Neponset River.
Yes.
And the last couple times I walked by, only one of them was functional, and the rest of them were all kind of mushed up in the corner as you're looking downstream on the left-hand side. So I don't
Which
know if
side of the
erosion
tracks?
control barriers or the
They're
Jersey
floating.
barriers?
They're floating on the water.
Oh, okay.
What are those called?
Booms.
Booms.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're in the river.
But they're not working. So if
Yeah, you have to keep them tied.
Hendry's work is over here,
Then the tracks.
the tracks are over here. The dry cleaners
Yeah.
over here. There's one there, and then there looks like there's about 5 of them, all non-functioning
Not functioning.
over here on this.
Float down, been pushed.
They're all tangled up and they're all in one corner. And one of them, and sometimes the one is not even really all the way across.
But where are the tracks? Where's the building?
The building is over here,
Yeah.
They have a
That's
Nifty's
River Street?
SWIP for that project, right?
tracks. What's that?
They have a
No.
Nifty's, they have a SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan that was required. They have a requirement to provide the town with the inspection.
River Street over here, John.
So I would
Rite Aid,
look at the inspection records
dry cleaner.
and flag that, and if it doesn't get identified as an inspection requirement, you would ask why.
Well, Hendry's is over here, I should say.
I don't think she,
I'm completely lost.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't draw a very good picture.
No, I understood it completely.
But it's in the river.
Henry's, so for their.
So it's away from, it's on the other side of the tracks from Hendry's. Because Hendry's is separated from the river by the tracks.
Do you want me to?
Oh, you're right, I drew it on the wrong side. Yeah, it's, Hendry's is adjacent to the tracks, and this is in the river.
Okay.
So, if I may, the erosion controls that you're talking about are required as part of their stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP. They have an obligation to provide those inspections, which are done every 7 calendar days or following a rain event of more than 0.25 inches over a 24-hour period. And so, as part of those inspections, that would have had to have been flagged as a non-compliance item and would have to be identified. If it did, per the requirements, it would have had to get repaired within 7 days.
Okay, it's been this
So-
way for many weeks.
And so that's where we can capture if it's
Yep,
been identified, and then also that's where we have the teeth in getting to fix it as soon as
Right.
possible.
yep.
So how do we follow up?
Yeah, where do you go?
Is there a
Confirm that- So Kathy would confirm what, I'm guessing the SWIP reports get submitted to engineering?
But don't they have an LSP?
They do have an LSP.
So why don't we just call the LSP and say, hey,
This would be under that's 2 different, but.
I know, but
Yeah,
he's on the
you-
site.
You've got
and
the
he
number of the LSP,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I think that's the guy to
A lot
inspire
of
them.
times, what happens is the people start to disregard the stormwater plan.
Oh, right.
And so it's also an opportunity to remind them that they have compliance obligations to inspect and maintain those things. So it would be, it would allow the Conservation Commission to assert jurisdiction as well as the planning board.
Right.
So where do these reports get filed? They get filed with
I
engineering?
believe- Yes,
Okay,
or they should be filed in engineering or submitted
all right.
Weekly.
whenever they're completed.
They haven't been for,
Excuse me.
as I
If they
walk,
haven't been repaired for a while, yes, so then. The
yeah,
question is, are they following their compliance requirements and doing the
Right.
inspections? And then the second question is, if you're inspecting, why the heck haven't you figured out
fixed
what's wrong?
them, yeah. There's 2 different kinds. There's white ones of a certain diameter and then yellow ones, looks like a different diameter. And only a white one has been going across the river from bank to bank that looks to be functional. And the rest of them,
Just
2 or 3 white ones and, I don't know, 2 to 4, maybe more of the yellow ones are all tangled up and have been in the corner of the river facing the north bank for several weeks, like a pretty long time.
All right. So can you call the LSP?
Yes.
I think Steve Ivers knows who the contractor is.
Yes,
And the
Steve's been
contractor
at
should
the
be able
site
to.
for a long time.
What's that?
He checks periodically.
He does,
all the
but
time.
he's been gone for
But if
such a
it's
long
something
time.
that's not readily visible unless you're.
Yeah, like I say, I walk to the grocery store, so
Yeah.
I'm right there at that level.
Yeah.
If you're in a car, put it this way, if you were in a car, you would never notice.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
would never notice.
All right.
It's down too low.
All right, that's good. And then we have MWRA doing test pits on, it looks like it's Hope Avenue, where near where it intersects with Squantum Street.
West Quantum, yeah.
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 Because that Hope runs between Granite Avenue and West Quantum Street. And on the West Quantum Street side, they are actually doing some test pits because they're going to reconstruct, I guess, this is the water part of it as opposed to the sewer. There's a water line, I guess, that goes through there.
Oh, when they were before us, John, were they talking about water or sewer? When they were here before us to explain.
Oh, that's Central Avenue.
Yeah, that wasn't this
That's
side.
sewer.
Oh.
That was sewer. They were doing the relief sewer.
Yeah.
And they were actually running right along, above ground, right along the bike path. So they crossed the River Street Bridge.
No, there was the design that went from Quincy all the way over, and then over by Granite Avenue.
Yes, I remember that.
They were in front of us.
Yeah, but that's, what you're talking about, like 5 or 6 years ago?
No, about,
Last year?
yeah, 6 months ago.
Well, man, we got all kinds of projects, because remember when they went underneath Granite Avenue, Adam Street? Right where Squantum
That
Street?
was a while ago, yeah.
Right, so this one was on the water. Water or sewer? Which one are you talking about?
I can't remember.
Because this is water,
This is water, but
and
it's
this
been
is Hope Avenue.
going on since October, from Boston to Milton
Yes.
to Quincy.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So they're, where they're digging the test pits, they're taking out some trees. So we just wanted to make sure that there's like public notification, to the extent that this is televised, is public notification that they are going to be removing some trees on Hope Avenue. They look to be about 4-inch caliber, 3-inch caliber. They're not very big. And I think there were 3 that I could see that they had taped for removal. And then there was a log on the ground that was clearly ancient, and they're going to have to remove that. And then there was another one that was clearly dead, and they're going to remove that. So really, it looked like 3 live trees are going to be removed. But it's part of their test pit, and they're just giving us notice. They're not asking permission, because they're,
Exempt.
they're exempt. So that's just notification. And what else? We had 1455 Canton Avenue. We're a little bit confused on. That's Judge Finnegan and Dr. Driscoll's house from the old days.
Right.
And we had been up there at least once with Ned Cochran and the judge. And they wanted to remove 2 or 3 clearly dead trees. It's on Balster Brook at the very end of the backyard. And we all said, yeah, go ahead and remove those 3. And then he wanted to take out the pool, which is outside, and then just, grass it over. And then back to the side yard, going back towards Canton Avenue, if you're facing the house to the left, there is a stream that runs through there. I think, I don't know if that's intermittent there or not, but without getting into, it is a stream. And he wanted to take out quite a number, there's like 8 or 9 trees there, some of which would impact the bank, because they're literally in the bank. And we said, you can probably do that, but we need a planting plan. So we split the order of conditions, and we said, go ahead and remove the pool and take out the trees in the back, and then wait, because you can't do it now anyway. You can't do the replanting, and we need to preserve the bank of that stream. So at the time that you take it, you have to have some kind of a landscape plan, erosion control, so the bank doesn't collapse. And I thought that's where we left it, that he was going to go ahead, take out the pool and back trees, and then give us a planting plan.
Yeah, and they were gonna maybe just trim some of the trees instead of taking them down and all
Yeah,
the
that's right.
options.
That's the discussion we had.
Yeah, right.
So,
Ned Corcoran is asking if he can go forward with removal of the trees. And he emailed us the 6th, February 6th, he emailed us.
So,
February 6th. I thought we were,
so he hasn't provided anything to show how he's gonna stabilize the bank.
correct.
But that
Is
was
that your
the
memory of it as well? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the order.
It's right here?
the order is in one of those folders.
52, 4,
And also, there should be notes, from the walk itself that Steve Ives took.
Yeah,
I
he
have
did, he
all the
does.
conditions.
Oh, okay.
So this is the email from Jim Burke
Oh, this one is later, this is
to
the
me.
one from Ned Corcoran after Jim Burke's.
Well, this,
That's Jim's, that's.
so it says, on February 4th, it says to me, I am in the process of getting a landscape plan together for the approved pool removal and tree clearing project at 1455 Canton Avenue for Tom Finnegan. I hope to have this Thursday to discuss the next hearing if possible. I hope to have this Thursday to discuss in the next hearing if possible. However, it is my understanding that the commission allowed Mr. Finnegan to move forward In the winter months, with the demo and the tree removal, despite not having the approved landscape plan yet.
No,
The
just the
reason-
backyard.
The reason being that the time of the year is not conducive to planting. Is this your recollection as well? I would like to be able to tell the client it is okay to get your contractor moving toward project completion and not waiting for spring. That's not what my memory is. We split it,
We did, we did.
and the trees in the back,
You can take them down,
Take
the
them
ones
down,
on the
and you can
side,
take care of the
show us
pool.
what- Yeah,
and then the ones off to the left, to the side of the house,
yeah.
was contingent upon the landscape plan because we were concerned with holding the bank. All right. So now, that was, I read you the 4th, and then on
There
the...
was one tree on that side, the one that was closer to the furthest away from the bank towards the house, that we said could be removed.
Yeah, but it would be pointless to bring the contractor in to take one out of 8 or 9 trees. And then have to come back.
Oh, they're gonna do the ones in the back too.
Oh, they could split it that way, but they'd have to have the tree removal guy come back twice. Anyway, well, in any event, the 6th email said, "Hi, John, I'm following up on Jim Burke's email to see whether you agree with that Tom Finnegan can move forward with the tree removal work. He has been advised by Hunt that this is a good time to get the work done. We are separately preparing a plan for tree replacement that we would hope to have ready to present next Tuesday, but more likely will be ready for the March hearing date." Well, I don't remember exempting one tree from that group. I thought it was the back versus the side. And the back and the pool could go forward, and the others were contingent upon the planting plan. Let's see what it says. General conditions. Special conditions. The project shall be completed in 2 phases. The first phase shall be the removal of the pool and associated patio and temporary stabilization of the area, fall, winter 2019. The second phase, contingent on the submittal of a landscaping plan and planting plan to be approved by the commission. 45, tree removal with no stump grinding along Balster Brook in spring of 2020, contingent on the commission's approval. 46, the Japanese knotweed eradication within the riverfront on this site. Number 47, there shall be no deviations from the approved plans without approval from the commission. Number 46, an applicant to inform all contractor overnight storage or refueling of construction vehicles or hydraulic equipment is prohibited within 100 feet of the wetland resource. So it's a 2-phase deal. So as I see, the second phase contingent on the submittal of a landscape plan,
Which we haven't,
which we haven't received.
Yeah,
Right.
you see.
Well,
Yeah.
it's clear.
it's easy. I mean, it's easy to get the landscape plan. So it looks like we're off until March.
Yes.
Okay. Will you tell, I'll call him as well, but will you just,
Well, it sounded like you wanted to come in tonight, and
yeah, he's not here.
they're not here, so.
All right. I will give him a ring tomorrow. So I don't think we need, it's not on the agenda, it's just additional business, but I think
Right.
that's pretty clear. Any other additional business?
So technically, he does not have permission to continue until he comes into March. Request.
Correct. Well, it's not March, it's contingent upon the landscape plan approval.
Okay,
But the underlying thought behind that was to preserve the banks of the brook.
Right.
Okay. Can you hand those back down?
Sure.
I think they're all set to go. Is that it? I think we're done.
So, just want to revisit,
Oh, yes.
and
Yes.
please hear me out here. I was at the last MACC, the winter meeting. At that meeting, I was approached by 2 other commissions, as well as some of the people actually on the MACC board. They're trying to establish consistency in developing standards for true mitigation and buffers.
Okay.
And so they were very interested in how we developed our standard. And I said, yes. So I think that there's going to be increased focus through MACC and through other towns on establishing some definitive standards as to how our tree mitigation is handled. There are some, I know there are some other towns that do already have standards. I did previously provide a draft suggested start. I'd like to either revisit that, or if somebody has something else to propose, but I'd like to start that process.
That's a great idea.
In addition, one of my neighbors is on the Shade Tree Committee, and I think they are looking to also assert more jurisdiction in terms of shade tree. So I think this is going to be a significant topic going forward. So that's where my concerns are in terms of establishing standards and
I
consistency.
think it's a great idea.
Just two related comments, if I may. We talked at a meeting maybe 2 weeks ago about having the town tree warden in, who's Branch Lane, and we saw him on site recently. And I had an opportunity to mention to him that we had raised this just so that he was aware of it as a possibility. He said, that's great, be happy to come in and bring in some people from the Landscape Tree Advisory Committee with me. So that door's wide open. And the second observation that has been shared with me by others is they would like to see a clarity on the part of the Conservation Commission relative to our discussions about trees, because they can't follow it in many instances. And someone has suggested, do you have this written? Is it codified by you? And do you follow, a consistent pattern? Because we do go periodically through everything from soup to nuts to sort of regroup and recalibrate and go back to center again. So I think it would be helpful for the commission as a whole relative to the community that we serve if we sort of got this together.
Can you resend to everybody by email your draft? And then Kathy, can you put it on the agenda for discussion? And not as additional business, but put it on as an agenda item?
So just to be clear, what I put together is cobbed together from different sources. I'm not emotionally attached to it at all. So, take your red pen to it and make any suggestions, and I'm happy to work through it. So,
Yeah, I
but
think it
I
makes
think
a
we
lot
just
of
need to
sense.
move it forward.
Right.
When I think back of how we came up with those numbers, John, you and I were on, but I think we just said, very subjectively, it seems, good. We didn't have.
We have been
any
consistent, the
scientists
3 to
here.
1.
We have been.
Since the Don Neal days back in the 90s. And we've always had 3 to 1 replacement. But we varied a little bit
Yeah.
on the bush replacement.
Yeah, right.
And we've
right.
also varied a
And the
little bit
caliper.
on the caliper.
Caliper.
Right.
And also on the species,
Yes.
when we're dealing with
Right.
invasives. So, but those are all things that we can work
And we
on.
should write down, so.
And I think quality of the species probably is an element that we should somehow
Yes.
wind in there. Qualitatively, this tree is better for the environment than this other choice, for example.
I fully
When
agree.
does something become native? I mean, I mean that. I know I make a lot of jokes about Norway maple, but it's been here forever.
Never be native.
Right.
No, it's an invasive.
But
Right.
d-
New England Wildflower Society, I think, has a listing.
But doesn't that change over that? Let's say it's been here for 1,000 years. Does that then become native, or 100 years, or how about 20 years? I mean, somebody must
That's
have a
an
criteria.
academic
What's that?
debate that goes back and forth. I mean, there's a similar debate about Phragmites, actually, that there's a cultivar of Phragmites down at the DNA level that wasn't imported. However,
They're natives.
most of it has been. So,
Right. And they choked out the Spartina, right?
Yes.
And that's really what happened,
yeah.
right? And it's imported has a growth advantage.
Correct. It more comes down to non-compatible. So something that pushes out
And we have,
other species.
I'll work with, what we've allowed with conservation restrictions too, in terms of trees.
Say again?
When we have a CR,
Yes.
we've been more generous or lenient with tree replacements.
Yes, for cluster.
That, for a cluster, but that's brand new.
Right, but
That's not a change in philosophy.
No, but we need to have.
That's a new zone.
Right, exactly. But we need to have that as part of the package, so that
Yes.
Oh, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
when new people come on the commission, if a new commissioner comes in, they ought to be able to have this template. I think that's what you're suggesting, right in front of them, and they can understand it and see it.
And then it'll be clear for applicants too, so. it's
Correct.
not-
And I think, John, the term native, what is native, it's pretty scientific. People are discussing it all the time. There are articles on it, how to define it. It isn't something that we just throw around. We're trying to really figure out, which plants came here when, and so it's an ongoing discussion. It isn't something we just,
And there are sources.
Oh, I recognize that.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, there are plants and trees that are leaving
Right.
because of global warming and climate change.
All right, so you're gonna
I'm
send
gonna,
that
I
around?
will circulate what I did before, and I will follow up to try and elicit comments and input, and then we'll try and get something that can be reviewed as a policy. that we
Well,
can
we've got
adopt.
policy, regulation, and bylaw. Bylaw
Yeah,
requires
so-
the town meeting.
Yeah,
So that,
I
we don't
think-
need to get
I
there.
think the policy is the appropriate avenue for how we, yes,
You don't wanna go to town meeting.
yes. And so I'll make sure it's written as and it's clear that is a policy to be implemented.
Okay.
Policy being another word for performance standard? Is that, so what
Well,
we're saying?
that's a term of art in the Wetlands Protection Act, but
Okay.
it differs. I mean, DEP has its own performance standards. We could have one that's different. But it,
So this is a policy that's enforced more along the lines of our bylaw, or our
Regulation.
regulations.
It's the
Yes,
regulation.
The regulations.
because it's easier to get a regulation passed. You can do that, I think, with the select board's support. But the bylaw is
Yes.
difficult.
So,
When is the last time our bylaw was reviewed?
Don Neal was very active in that, probably, I'm gonna guess
2006?
2005. I was gonna guess 5, but
5 or
2006?
6, yeah.
I think it's 6.
Something like that, right.
I just spoke to someone about that. There was another town that was doing it. I'm gonna be at the next MACC, I think it's in mid-February, the one at,
At the beginning of March, at
Yeah.
Holy Cross?
yeah.
Is anybody going to, have you seen that? I haven't seen an email.
I'm hoping to go.
Please visit me at the Eversource table
Yay.
Okay.
and pretend you don't hate me.
What table are you at?
Eversource. So,
All right, can you send that around to see, or just take, I mean, I'd like to go. That's what, it's usually the first week in March, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I will.
Okay.
Send it around to all of us, yeah.
Right.
I haven't been on.
Don't you get it in the mail or email?
You get in-
Yeah, it's the email,
Yeah, we get
the
the-
newsletter.
But you
Right,
didn't
but-
get the application, all that, like you?
I think you can search for it.
Okay, I'll.
But I
If
think
you
you
give
gotta
them
pay
the-
for
If you
it.
give them your email address, they'll just keep you on their mailing.
Oh, I am on the list, yeah, I get
I
the
mean,
stuff all
for
the time.
other members who may not be,
They
Jerry.
they sent out an email recently.
Yep,
Right. Yeah, it's actually pretty
I go
interesting.
on a week almost.
yes.
Yeah, that's
Once every 2
And
weeks.
we're gonna be together again, the 27th for the select board
Sixth.
meeting?
So, the 6th.
26th.
26th, yeah. It's interesting, I teach criminal procedure at night, and one of my students works for the EPA. I was just shooting the breeze with him last week, and I said, oh yeah, I'm in Conservation Commission, Milton. He said, oh really, I'm coming out to see you guys. So I actually think he's gonna be one of the presenters
And
on the 26th.
You probably should announce where it's gonna be held in.
Council on Aging at 7.
That's where it is?
Council on Aging, yeah. Sorry.
On the 26th?
On the,
I had all that information,
Wednesday,
but on the
February
wrong day.
26th,
Right.
7 PM, Council on Aging.
where are you teaching?
And what's the
What's
topic
that?
again?
Where are you teaching?
At
This
New
is
England
about the-
School of Law,
the Listing for the
34 years.
ponds? or is it?
Frightening. Frightening.
Seems like only
I
yesterday.
remember.
What's that? Seems like
It was
only
the agenda.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Topic.
Has criminal procedure changed that much over these 35 years?
You know, it actually has, I mean, there are things that I have to say, ooh, that is a little different.
Yeah, these things.
I remember you giving us a lecture in the Suffolk County DA's office on the beginnings of the DNA.
Yeah, that's right.
That was back, what, 70s?
No, that was isoenzymes and stuff.
Yeah.
The DNA actually wasn't.
No, but it was the,
Before.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
before the
Yeah.
DNA.
It was coming, but it had
Gene
caught you
started
in
paying
July
out
before.
for the Housatonic.
All right, I don't want to mean to.
All right.
So I think we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. All in favor, we're done, thanks.
Did everyone sign the,
Isn't middle-aged fun?
Say again?
Isn't
Everyone
middle-aged
what?